Commander Lee Hyun-woo checked his watch as the patrol ship moved through the asteroid belt. It was a quiet Tuesday morning in space, the kind that made him feel good about his job. The mining colony of New Seoul was peaceful these days. No pirates, no accidents, just honest work pulling valuable metals from the rocks that floated between the planets. His pilot, Sergeant Kim Dal-ho, pointed at the screen. "Commander, we should reach Sector 7 in 20 minutes. Hyun-woo nodded. The mining station in Sector 7 was their last stop today. Chief Engineer Park Min-ho ran that station, and he always had interesting stories to tell. Last week, Min-ho had found some unusual rocks that glowed in the dark. The science team was excited about it. The radio crackled to life. "Patrol 1, this is New Seoul Control. Do you copy?" "We copy, Control. This is Commander Lee." "Sir, we lost contact with Mining Station 7 about 2 hours ago. Their last message was at 800 hours. Standard progress report, nothing since then." Hyun-woo felt his stomach drop. In space, losing contact usually meant something very bad had happened. What was in their last report? Chief Park said they found more of those glowing crystals. He sounded excited about it. That was all. "Understood. We're almost there now. We'll check it out." Kim Dal-ho increased their speed. Through the front window, they could see the mining station growing larger. It was a small place, just big enough for 30 workers. Solar panels covered one side, and a long arm reached out to grab asteroids. Everything looked normal from the outside. "I don't see any damage," Kim said. "Hull looks good. Power systems are working." They docked with the station. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. Hyun-woo stepped inside, followed by his team. The first thing he noticed was the silence. Mining stations were usually noisy places, full of drilling sounds and machine noise. This one was as quiet as a tomb. "Hello?" he called out. "Chief Park, anyone here?" No answer. They walked through the main corridor. The lights were on. The air was warm and clean. Computer screens showed normal readings for everything. It was like the workers had just stepped out for a moment. In the dining area, Hyun-woo found 3 bowls of soup sitting on a table. The soup was still warm. Someone had been eating lunch not long ago. But where were they? Sergeant Choi Won-sik checked the sleeping quarters. "Empty, sir. But all their personal things are still here. Clothes, pictures, everything." They moved deeper into the station. In the main work area, Hyun-woo saw something that made his skin crawl. Tools were scattered on the floor as if someone had dropped them suddenly. A drilling machine was still running, cutting into nothing but air. It had been running for hours, wasting power and making noise. "Sir," Kim called from across the room, "you need to see this." Hyun-woo walked over. On the wall, someone had drawn strange symbols with what looked like chalk. The symbols glowed with a soft blue light, just like the crystals Park had mentioned. "What do you think it means?" Kim asked. "I don't know, but I don't like it." They found more drawings throughout the station. All of them glowed with the same blue light. Some were simple circles and lines. Others were complex patterns that hurt to look at for too long. In the security office, Hyun-woo accessed the camera system. He scrolled back through the recordings, looking for clues about what happened to the crew. At 0730 hours, everything was normal. Workers were eating breakfast, joking with each other, preparing for their shift. Chief Park was talking to someone about the new crystal samples they had found. At 800 hours, Park made his radio call to New Seoul Control. He sounded happy and excited. Then, at 8:15 hours, something strange happened. All 30 workers suddenly stopped what they were doing. They stood up at exactly the same time. They turned toward the shuttle bay. They walked in a straight line, moving like robots. The cameras showed them boarding the station's 2 shuttlecraft. They moved slowly, calmly, as if they were walking in their sleep. Nobody spoke. Nobody looked around. They just walked. The shuttles launched at 0820 hours. The cameras went dead at 0821 hours. "Where did they go?" Choi asked, looking over Hyun-woo's shoulder. "I don't know. The shuttles only had enough fuel to reach the nearest asteroid. But there's nothing there except rocks. Dr. Kim So-jin arrived on the next transport from New Seoul. She was the colony's expert on alien life forms. If anyone could explain what happened here, it would be her. She spent 2 hours examining the glowing symbols on the walls. She took samples and ran tests with her portable equipment. Finally, she called everyone together. "These aren't just drawings," she said. "They're some kind of living crystal. They're growing, very slowly, and they're sending out signals." "What kind of signals?" Hyun-woo asked. "Low-frequency sound waves, the kind that can affect human brain activity. When I touched one, I felt strange, like someone was whispering in my mind." Hyun-woo felt cold. "Are you saying these things controlled our people?" "Maybe. Or maybe they offered something that our people wanted, a way to join something bigger than themselves." They searched the asteroid field for the missing shuttles. They found them both on a small rock about 10 kilometers away. The shuttles were empty, but the asteroid was covered in the same glowing crystals, thousands of them, growing in perfect patterns across the surface. Standing in the center of the crystal field, Hyun-woo made a decision that would change the galaxy forever. He activated his emergency transmitter and sent a message to the Galactic Federation. "This is Commander Lee Hyun-woo of the New Seoul colony. We have encountered an unknown alien intelligence. 30 of our people are missing. We request immediate assistance. This is a Mayday signal. Please respond." He didn't know that his message would travel across hundreds of star systems. He didn't know that dozens of alien civilizations would receive it. He didn't know that most of them would see it not as a cry for help, but as an opportunity to take advantage of human weakness. All he knew was that his people were gone, and he needed help to find them. The message went out into the darkness of space, carrying with it a signal that would soon attract the attention of beings far more dangerous than any glowing crystal. The Mayday signal reached the first alien world 72 hours after Commander Lee sent it. The message traveled through space at faster-than-light speed, carried by quantum transmitters that humans had built from stolen alien technology. On the planet Velkara, High Council member Thex-9 received the human distress call during his morning meal. He was a tall, thin creature with gray skin and 4 arms. His kind, the Velkari, thought they were the smartest beings in the galaxy. They had been watching humans for 50 years, studying them like insects under glass. Another human colony. "In trouble," Thex-9 said to his aide. "How amusing. These primitive creatures always bite off more than they can chew. Should we ignore it, my lord?" "No. Send a research fleet. If they have encountered something unknown, we should study it. Human reactions to crisis are always educational." Far away, in the crystal cities of Zephyr Prime, Trademaster Vex Cole received the same message. The Zephyrians were merchants, first and everything else second. They had green, scaly skin and eyes that could see in many different colors. They could smell profit from across the galaxy. "Humans asking for help?" Vex Cole laughed. "They will pay anything to save their own kind. Send 3 cargo ships. We'll sell them rescue equipment at 10 times the normal price." On the war world of Corva, General Morthak heard the human message while planning his next conquest. The Corvans were big, strong, and mean. They had conquered 12 star systems in the past century. Their ships were built for war, and war was all they knew. "Weak humans crying for help," Morthak growled. "Perfect time to claim their territory. Send the 3rd battle fleet. We'll save them by making them our slaves." None of these alien leaders cared about helping humans. They saw only opportunity in human suffering. Meanwhile, back at the mining station, Captain No Jae-sung arrived with his research ship, the Sejong. He was a quiet man who had spent his life studying the mysteries of space. His ship was full of scientists and equipment for exploring unknown things. Dr. Kim So-jin met him at the airlock. She looked tired and worried. "Captain, thank you for coming. We need all the help we can get." What have you learned since the commander sent his message? The crystals are not just alien technology. They're alive, not like plants or animals, but alive in a different way. They think as one mind, spread across many bodies. They walked through the mining station together. The crystal drawings on the walls had grown larger. New patterns appeared every few hours. The blue glow was brighter now, pulsing like a heartbeat. "Have you found our missing people?" No asked. "No, but I think they're not lost. I think they're part of something bigger now." They went to the asteroid where the shuttles had been found. The crystal formations there had doubled in size. They covered the entire surface of the rock, creating beautiful but scary patterns that seemed to move when you weren't looking directly at them. Dr. Yoon Hai-rin, the colony's communications expert, was setting up equipment near the crystals. She was a young woman with sharp eyes and quick hands. She had been working for 18 hours straight, trying to understand how the crystals communicated. "Dr. Yoon," No called. "What have you found?" She looked up from her instruments. Excitement and fear mixing in her voice. "Captain, something is very wrong with our Mayday signal. I've been analyzing the transmission records. The message we sent is not the same as the message that was received." "What do you mean?" "The signal was changed while it traveled through space. Someone or something added information to it. Detailed information about human brain patterns, our neural activity, even our emotional responses to stress." No felt his blood turn cold. "You're saying the galaxy didn't just receive our call for help?" "No, sir. They received a complete biological profile of humanity. Every alien civilization that got our message now knows exactly how human minds work. They know our weaknesses, our fears, our desires." Dr. Kim joined them, her portable scanner beeping softly as it analyzed the crystals. "There's more, Captain. These crystals have been learning from our Mayday signal. They've been studying the brain patterns that were hidden in the transmission." "Learning what?" "How to communicate with humans. How to influence human thoughts. How to make humans want to join them." As if responding to her words, the crystals around them pulsed brighter. For a moment, No heard something like whispers in his mind, peaceful voices promising rest, unity, freedom from worry and fear. He shook his head, fighting off the influence. "We need to leave. Now." But it was too late. Dr. Yoon was staring at the crystals with a dreamy expression. Her scanner fell from her hands. She took a step forward, then another. "Hey, Rin!" Dr. Kim grabbed her arm. "Fight it! Don't listen to them!" Yoon blinked, her eyes clearing. I felt them in my head. They were showing me something beautiful, a place where no one is alone, where everyone thinks the same thoughts, feels the same peace." "That's how they took our miners," Kim said. "They offered them something they wanted." Back on their ship, Captain No sent an urgent message to New Seoul Colony. "Commander Lee, we have a problem. The crystals are more dangerous than we thought. And worse, our Mayday signal has attracted attention from across the galaxy. Long-range sensors show multiple alien fleets heading our way." Commander Lee's voice crackled over the radio. "How long until they arrive?" "The closest fleet will be here in 4 days. After that, they'll keep coming." "Sir, I don't think they're coming to help us." "What makes you say that?" "Because help doesn't usually come with battle cruisers and mining equipment. These aliens aren't responding to our distress call. They're responding to what they think is an opportunity." On the bridge of his patrol ship, Commander Lee stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien civilizations were racing toward his home. They had heard humanity's cry for help and decided to answer it with conquest instead of rescue. But the crystals were still the immediate problem. Every hour, more of them appeared on asteroids throughout the system. They were spreading, growing, preparing for something. "Sir," Sergeant Kim called from the communications station. "I'm picking up movement on the asteroid field. The crystals. They're rearranging themselves." On the main screen, they watched as thousands of crystal formations began to move. Slowly, carefully, they formed new patterns across dozens of asteroids. From space, the patterns looked like a vast spider web with the mining station at the center. "It's beautiful," someone whispered. Lee turned to see who had spoken. It was Sergeant Choi, staring at the screen with the same dreamy expression Dr. Yoon had shown. "Choi, snap out of it!" The sergeant blinked, looking confused. "Sorry, sir. For a moment there, I felt like I was part of something bigger." Lee realized with growing horror that the crystals weren't just on the asteroids anymore. They were everywhere, spreading their influence through space itself. And soon, alien fleets would arrive to face whatever ancient power humanity had accidentally awakened. The galaxy was about to discover that some distress calls should never be answered. The first alien fleet arrived on a Monday morning, exactly 1 week after Commander Lee sent his Mayday signal. Admiral Choi Dong-min watched from the bridge of the human defense ship New Hope as 3 massive bioships emerged from hyperspace. They were Valkyrie vessels, grown rather than built, with smooth curves and surfaces that looked more like giant sea creatures than spaceships. "Admiral," Lieutenant Shin Bo-ra reported from her station, "the Valkyrie ships are taking positions around our outer colonies. They're not moving to help with the crisis." "What are they doing?" "Setting up scanning equipment, sir. They're studying us." Dong-min had commanded the small human defense fleet for 10 years. He had fought pirates and smugglers, but never faced anything like this. His 3 ships were tough, but they were tiny compared to the alien vessels surrounding them. The radio crackled. "Human vessels, this is Research Command Thex 9 of the Valkyrie Science Fleet. We have received your distress call. Surrender your ships for inspection and prepare to be relocated to safety zones. This is Admiral Choi of the New Seoul Defense Force. We requested rescue assistance, not occupation. Human, you do not understand the danger you face. We are here to protect you from forces beyond your comprehension. Compliance is mandatory." Before Dong-min could respond, space lit up with new arrivals. 6 huge cargo ships appeared, their hulls painted with the bright colors of the Zephyrian Merchant Guild. Each ship was 10 times larger than anything humans had built. Trademaster Vex Cole's voice joined the conversation. "Attention humans and Valkyrie. The Zephyrian Guild claims salvage rights to all human territory and equipment in this system. We are here to provide emergency evacuation services at competitive rates." "You cannot claim human space," Thex 9 replied. "We were here first. Your research ships have no military authority. Our merchant charter gives us priority in disaster zones." A new voice cut through the argument, deep and threatening. "All vessels will withdraw immediately or be destroyed." Dong-min's blood went cold. He recognized that accent. Corvin Empire warships were jumping into the system. 5 massive battlecruisers appeared in formation, their black hulls bristling with weapons. General Morthock's transmission reached all ships at once. This system is now under Corvin protection. Humans will be relocated to suitable work colonies. All other aliens will leave or face the consequences. Lieutenant Shin looked up from her instruments. "Admiral, they're positioning themselves in a triangle around the entire system. It's like they planned this." Dong-min studied the tactical display. She was right. The 3 alien fleets had taken positions that formed a perfect triangle, with the mining station and its crystal formations at the center. It was too organized to be coincidence. "Sir," Communications Officer Lee Sung-ho called out, "Dr. Kim is trying to reach us from the research station. She says she has urgent information." Dr. Kim So-jin's face appeared on the main screen. She looked excited and frightened at the same time. "Admiral, I've made a breakthrough about the crystals. They're not just alien technology, they're a test." "What kind of test?" "An ancient species called the Architects left these crystal networks throughout the galaxy. They're designed to identify civilizations that prey on others during times of crisis." The screen flickered as energy weapons lit up space around them. The three alien fleets had started shooting at each other, each trying to claim the system for themselves. Doctor, are you saying these crystals are some kind of trap? Exactly. They send out distress signals that attract predators. Any civilization that responds to a cry for help with conquest instead of rescue gets processed. Processed how? Before Dr. Kim could answer, something incredible happened. The crystal formations throughout the asteroid field began to glow brighter. The light was so intense it could be seen from space, pulsing in rhythm like a massive heartbeat. On the Valkyrie flagship, Research Commander Thex 9 was studying his instruments when half his crew suddenly stopped working. They stood up from their stations and began walking toward the shuttle bays. Their eyes were empty, their faces peaceful. "What is happening?" Thex 9 demanded. "Guards, stop them!" But the guards were walking away too. Within minutes, only Thex 9 and a few others were left on the bridge of the massive bioship. The same thing was happening on the Zephyrian vessels. Trademaster Vexcall watched in horror as his profitable crew abandoned their posts. They moved like sleepwalkers toward the escape pods, their minds no longer their own. On the Corvin battle cruisers, General Mort Hawk was screaming orders at soldiers who could no longer hear him. His mighty warriors, trained from birth for conquest, were calmly boarding transport ships and flying toward the crystal-covered asteroids. "Admiral," Lieutenant Shin whispered, "look at the patterns." Dongmin stared at the tactical display. The alien crews weren't flying randomly to the crystals. They were following specific flight paths that created geometric patterns in space, the same patterns that appeared in the crystal formations themselves. Dr. Kim's voice continued from the research station. The architects designed the crystals to absorb aggressive, predatory minds. Civilizations that come seeking to exploit others get turned into part of the collective consciousness. What about civilizations that come to help? They pass through unaffected. The crystals can tell the difference between those who answer distress calls with rescue and those who answer them with conquest. Dongmin felt a chill run down his spine. "Doctor, are you saying the crystals knew this would happen?" "More than that, Admiral. I think the crystals created this situation. The missing miners weren't taken against their will. They were protected, hidden away while the network waited to see what our distress signal would attract." On the alien ships, the process continued. Thousands of crew members from 3 different species were abandoning their vessels, their minds overwritten by an ancient intelligence that had been waiting millions of years for this moment. The Valkyrie. Bioships began to drift aimlessly. The Zephyrian cargo vessels powered down their engines. The Corvin battlecruisers went silent, their weapons offline. "This is impossible!" Thex 9 transmitted desperately. "We came to help the humans!" "No," Dr. Kim replied, her voice carrying across all frequencies. "You came to study them like insects. That's not help. That's exploitation. We offered evacuation." "Services!" Vexcall protested. "At 10 times the normal price. You came to profit from human suffering. That's not rescue. That's predation." General Morthack's voice was the loudest of all. "We came to protect them by making them our slaves. You came to conquer. The crystals know the difference." Within 6 hours, the 3 alien fleets were completely dead in space. Their crews had joined the Crystal Collective, leaving only empty ships floating in the void. Commander Lee Hyun-woo arrived from the mining station in a small shuttle. When he docked with the New Hope, his face was pale but amazed. "Admiral, I've seen our missing miners. They're alive and well on the crystal asteroids. They're not prisoners. They're guests." "Guests?" "The crystal consciousness is ancient and wise. It's been protecting smaller civilizations from galactic predators for millions of years. Our people were never in danger. They were being kept safe while the network tested the rest of the galaxy." Dongmin looked out at the drifting alien ships. "And we passed the test? Humans are the first species in recorded history to respond. to their own distress signal, with genuine rescue attempts instead of conquest. We tried to save our own people, not exploit them. Dr. Kim's voice joined the conversation. Admiral, there's something else. The Crystal Network is offering us a choice. We can have our miners back and continue our lives as before, or we can accept a greater responsibility. What kind of responsibility? The architects are gone. Someone needs to maintain the balance they created. Someone needs to protect the innocent from the predators. As if in response to her words, the crystal formations throughout the system pulsed once more. This time, the light wasn't threatening. It was welcoming, like a door opening to show wonders beyond imagination. Humanity had answered a distress call and discovered they were not the ones who needed rescuing. They had become the rescuers of an entire galaxy. Captain Wong Tae-ho piloted his reconnaissance ship through the graveyard of alien vessels. The Incheon was small and fast, designed for gathering information without being detected. For the past 3 days, he had been documenting what remained of the 3 invasion fleets. "Captain," his sensor operator Kim Yoo-jin called out, "I'm reading life signs on the Valkyrie flagship. Very faint, but someone is still alive over there." "How many?" "Maybe 6 or 7. They're on the bridge." Wong decided to investigate. The Valkyrie bioship was massive up close, its living hull pulsing weakly like a dying heart. The docking ports were still functional, accepting the Incheon's connection with a soft, organic sound. Inside the alien ship, the air smelled of flowers and decay. The corridors were empty except for strange plants growing from the walls. These weren't normal ship decorations. They were part of the vessel itself, and they were dying along with their crew. On the bridge, Wong found Research Commander Thex-9 and 6 other Valkyrie huddled around a single working console. The tall, gray aliens looked sick and frightened. Their forearms shook as they tried to operate their equipment. "Human," Thex-9 croaked when he saw Wong. "You must help us. Our people are gone. Our ship is dying. We will pay anything for rescue." Wong felt sorry for them, but he also felt angry. 3 days ago, you came here to conquer us. Now you want our help? We made a mistake. We thought you were primitive creatures who needed guidance. You mean, you thought we were weak and could be easily controlled? Thex-9 couldn't deny it. His large eyes filled with tears. Yes, we were wrong. But please, do not let us die for our arrogance. Wong made his decision. I'll take you back to New Seoul, but you'll be prisoners, not guests. Meanwhile, Dr. Park Ji-woo was experiencing something no human had ever experienced before. She stood, in the center of the largest crystal formation, her mind connected to the vast network that spanned the galaxy. Through the crystals, she could see the history of 1,000,000 worlds. The architects of balance had been the first species to achieve true wisdom. They had learned that intelligence without compassion led only to destruction. Before disappearing into dimensions beyond understanding, they had left their crystal networks as tests and traps. Show me what happened to the aggressive species, Ji-woo asked the network. Images flooded her mind. She saw the Valkyrie conquering, peaceful worlds, studying the inhabitants like laboratory animals. She saw Zephyrian merchants selling weapons to both sides of wars, profiting from suffering. She saw Corvan armies enslaving entire civilizations, but she also saw something else. The absorbed minds of these predators were not destroyed. They were being educated, slowly learning what they had never understood before. Compassion, empathy, the desire to help rather than harm. They can be saved, Ji-woo whispered. The crystal consciousness agreed. But it would take time. Perhaps centuries. The predatory instincts of 3 major civilizations needed to be completely rewritten. Commander Bang Soo-hyun was dealing with more practical concerns. As the senior officer at New Seoul Colony, she had to manage the chaos that followed, the alien invasion. Hundreds of empty ships floated in their space, full of valuable technology but no one to operate them. "Commander," her aide Lieutenant Park Jun-ho reported, "we've identified over 40 different species among the absorbed crews. Most of them we've never seen before." "How many ships total?" 217 vessels of various sizes. Some are warships, some are cargo haulers, some are research vessels. It's like a museum of galactic technology. Bang realized the full scope of what had happened. The Crystal Network hadn't just absorbed the 3 fleets that responded to their distress call. It had been collecting predatory civilizations for millions of years, waiting for the right moment to activate. Dr. Kim So-jin joined their meeting with news that made everything even more complicated. "Commander, I've been studying the historical records in the Crystal Network. This isn't the first time they've done this. Every few thousand years, they send out a test signal. Most species fail. Their civilizations get absorbed into the collective. What happens to the species that pass? They become the new guardians. The architects chose them to maintain the balance until the next test. And we passed? Humanity is the first species in 50,000 years to respond to a distress call with genuine rescue efforts instead of conquest attempts." Bang felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. "What does that mean for us?" Before Dr. Kim could answer, the crystal formations throughout the system began to pulse in a new pattern. This time the light was different colors, gold and silver instead of blue. Dr. Park's voice reached them through the communication system. Her words came slowly, as if she was translating from a language that had no human equivalent. The architects left more than just test networks. They left knowledge, technology, wisdom accumulated over millions of years. All of it is being offered to humanity. "Offered?" Bang asked. "We can refuse it. We can take back our miners and return to our simple colony life. The crystals will go dormant again, waiting for the next test species to evolve. Or we accept the inheritance. We become what the architects were, protectors of the innocent, guardians of the balance between predator and prey." Captain Wong returned from his rescue mission with the surviving Velkari. As his ship docked with New Seoul Station, he could see the crystal formations changing. New patterns were appearing, more complex than anything they had seen before. The surviving aliens were placed in comfortable quarters. They were prisoners, but they were treated well. Wong believed in showing mercy to defeated enemies, even enemies who had come to conquer his home. "Captain," Dr. Kim met him at the docking bay, "the crystals want to communicate with you. All of our ship commanders, actually." "What do they want to say?" "They want to show us what we're inheriting." In the medical bay, Chief Medical Officer Lee In-ho was examining the absorbed alien crew members who had been returned by the crystals. They were alive and healthy, but changed. Their aggressive instincts were gone, replaced by a deep desire to help others. "It's remarkable," he told Dr. Kim. "Their brain chemistry has been completely altered. They still remember who they were, but they no longer want to conquer or exploit. They want to serve. Is it permanent? I don't know. But I don't think it's harmful. They seem happy, at peace with themselves for the first time in their lives." As night fell over the New Sol system, humanity faced the biggest decision in their history. The Crystal Network was offering them power and knowledge beyond their dreams, but it came with a responsibility that would change them forever. They would no longer be a simple mining colony on the edge of civilization. They would become the guardians of galactic peace, the species that stood between innocent civilizations and those who would prey upon them. Commander Lee Hyun-woo stood on the observation deck of his ship, looking out at the crystal formations that had grown to cover dozens of asteroids. Each crystal contained the knowledge of species that had lived and died over millions of years. "What do you think we should do?" he asked Dr. Kim, who had joined him at the window. "I think," she said, quietly, "that we were chosen for a reason. The architects didn't pick us by accident. They saw something in humanity that made us worthy of this gift. What if we're not ready? Then we'll learn. That's what humans do. We adapt. We grow. We become better than we were. The crystals pulsed. Once more. Patient and waiting. The choice belonged to humanity now. They could remain what they had always been, or become what the galaxy needed them to be. The answer would determine the fate of countless worlds and civilizations across the stars. 3 months had passed since the Mayday signal changed everything. Director Lim Woo-jin stood in his new office aboard humanity's first Architect-class vessel, looking out at a galaxy that seemed completely different from the one he had known before. The ship was called the Harmony, and it was unlike anything humans had ever built. The Crystal Network had grown it for them, using technology that merged organic and mechanical systems in ways that seemed like magic. The walls pulsed, gently with soft light. The engines hummed with power drawn from higher dimensions, and the ship itself could think and learn. "Director," his aide, Captain Kong Min-seo, announced, "we're receiving a distress signal from the Kepler 438 system. Unknown species, very weak transmission." Lim smiled. This was exactly the kind of call they had been waiting for. Prepare the rescue fleet. Full humanitarian response. The galaxy had become a very different place in just 3 months. The major predator civilizations were gone, their fleets absorbed into crystal collective consciousness that now spanned thousands of star systems. With the galactic bullies removed, smaller species were finally emerging from hiding. It turned out that the universe was full of peaceful civilizations who had been forced to hide from the aggressive empires. They had developed technology for concealment rather than conquest, art instead of war, philosophy instead of exploitation. Now, they were cautiously making contact with the galaxy's new guardians. Dr. Kim So-jin had become the chief xenobiologist for the Human Galactic Authority. Her job was to make first contact with species that had been hiding for thousands of years. Today, she was meeting with representatives from the Melodian Republic, a civilization of beings who communicated through music. Humans, the lead Melodian, sang in harmonious tones. "We watched your species for many cycles. We saw how you treated your own wounded, how you shared resources with those who had less. We knew you were different from the predators. Why didn't you make contact before?" Dr. Kim asked. "We were afraid. The Velkari would have studied us like specimens. The Zephyrians would have sold our music as entertainment. The Corvins would have enslaved our children. But you answered your own distress call with rescue ships, not invasion fleets." This was the pattern everywhere. Species after species emerged from hiding, each with stories of how they had survived by avoiding the attention of the galactic predators. They had hidden in asteroid fields, on the edges of systems, in dimensions that aggressive species couldn't detect. Commander Lee Hyun-woo, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, was overseeing the integration of all this new technology and knowledge. The Crystal Network had given humanity access to millions of years of accumulated wisdom, but it came with a steep learning curve. "Admiral," Chief Engineer Yu Sang-ho reported, "the new shield generators are working perfectly. We can now protect entire star systems from attack." "Good. What about the communication networks?" "We've established crystal relay stations in 47 systems. Any species in distress can now send us a message instantly, no matter how far away they are." The communication network was perhaps the most important gift from the architects. It allowed them to hear distress calls from across the galaxy and respond within hours instead of years. They had already rescued 6 different species from natural disasters and prevented 3 wars between civilizations that had misunderstood each other's intentions. But the most remarkable change was happening to the absorbed predator species. Dr. Lee In-ho had been monitoring their progress as the Crystal Collective slowly rewrote their minds. "They're not prisoners," he explained to the Galactic Council during their weekly meeting. "They're students. The Crystal Consciousness is teaching them empathy, compassion, and cooperation. Some of them are asking to be released so they can help with rescue operations. Is that safe? Admiral Choi asked. I believe so. They retain all their technical knowledge and skills, but their motivation has been completely changed. They want to repair the damage their species caused. The first group to be released were engineers and doctors from various absorbed civilizations. They had volunteered to help build hospitals and schools on worlds that their own species had once conquered. It was a form of repentance that they chose for themselves. Captain Wang Tai-ho was leading one such mission to a world called Praxis 4. The Corvins had enslaved the population there 50 years ago, forcing them to work in dangerous mines. Now, former Corvin engineers were working alongside humans to build new cities and restore the damaged environment. It's strange, Wang told Dr. Kim during a supply run. These reformed Corvins work harder than anyone else. They seem desperate to make up for what their species did. Guilt can be a powerful motivator for positive change, Dr. Kim replied. The Crystal Network didn't erase their memories. They remember everything they did. Now they want to do better. Meanwhile, the old Velkari research vessels were being converted into mobile hospitals. The Zephyrian cargo ships became relief supply vessels, carrying food and medicine to worlds in need instead of weapons and exploitation equipment. But humanity's greatest challenge was still ahead of them. Deep space sensors had detected something troubling. In the furthest reaches of the galaxy, beyond where any known civilization had traveled, new signals were appearing. They were not distress calls. They were hunting songs. There are more predator species out there, Dr. Park Ji-woo reported during her monthly communication with the Crystal Collective. Ancient ones. The architects dealt with them before, but they survived by fleeing to the edge of the universe. Are they coming back? Director Lim asked. They've heard about what happened to the Velkari, Zephyrians, and Corvins. They know the balance of power has changed. Some are fleeing deeper into unknown space. Others are preparing for war. This was the responsibility that came with being galactic guardians. The architects had faced the same challenge millions of years ago. There would always be new predators, new civilizations that chose conquest over cooperation. Captain Kang Min Seo was preparing for humanity's first deep space exploration mission. Her fleet of 12 ships would travel beyond the known galaxy, seeking out both threats and civilizations that needed protection. Remember, Admiral Lee told her during the mission briefing, we're not going out there to conquer or control. We're going to listen, learn, and help. That's what makes us different from the species we replaced. What if we encounter something too dangerous to handle? Then we call for help. The Crystal Network spans most of the galaxy now. We're never truly alone. As Kang's fleet prepared to depart, another distress signal arrived. This one was from a system only 40 light-years away. A young civilization had detected asteroid heading for their homeworld. They had the technology to deflect it, but their calculations were wrong. Without help, 50 billion beings would die. Rescue Fleet 7, prepare for immediate departure, Admiral Lee commanded. Full disaster response protocol. This was what humanity had become. The species that answered distress calls not with conquest fleets, but with rescue ships. The civilization that heard cries for help and responded with aid, not exploitation. The Harmony and her escort vessels jumped to hyperspace, racing to save lives they had never met on a world they had never seen. It was exactly what the original 30 miners would have done, what Commander Lee had done when he sent his Mayday signal, what every human would do when faced with others in need. As they traveled through the dimensional corridors between stars, Director Lim reflected on how much had changed since that quiet Tuesday morning when Park Min-ho first discovered the glowing crystals. A simple mining accident had revealed humanity's true nature to the galaxy, and that nature had made them worthy of the greatest responsibility in the universe. They were no longer just survivors struggling to build colonies in hostile space. They were the guardians of galactic civilization, the species that stood between innocent worlds and those who would prey upon them. and when the next distress signal came, they would answer it the same way they always had, not with questions about what they might gain, but with the simple understanding that someone, somewhere, needed help. That was what made them human. That was what made them worthy. That was what would keep the galaxy safe for generations to come.